Hi there Retro Games fans, this is Andy C from Pieces of 8-Bit. Following the sad passing of Team17 co-founder Martyn Brown at the end of last year, I'd like to pay a little bit of a tribute to his awesome legacy by diving into the history of one of the most iconic game studios in the world, that being Team17. You might know them for Worms, of course, but there's so much more to the story. I'm going to take you through the history of Team17 from their humble beginnings all the way to their rise as an indie publishing powerhouse. Now, to ensure I don't forget anything in this important topic, I have prepared in advance, which is somewhat out of character for this channel. So if it seems a bit weird to you that I'm not in my normal riffing, then that'll be why. And of course, even this statement that I've just mentioned here may or may not have been pre-prepared. So anyway, let's dive into the history and impact of Team17. Now, before we get into the corporate history, I just wanted to share a personal memory. I played a lot of Worms back in the day, and in fact it was a bit of a lunchtime LAN phenomenon where we were back in the early 2000s. So instead of heading out for lunch for fresh air like normal people at lunchtime, we'd stay at our desks, fire up Worms Armageddon and battle each other for the hour whilst this multitasking happened with our sandwiches in hand. You know, when this sort of thing was still socially acceptable in the workplace. It was pure chaos, and it's one of those memories that still brings a smile to my face even today. So yeah, Team17 has a special place in my gaming heart. So grab your favourite Worms weapons, whether it's the Holy Hand Grenade or the beloved Sheep Launcher, although personally I was always quite a big fan of the Concrete Donkey. Sit back and relax, and let's get into the story of Team17. So it's 1990, the world is still gripped by the early days of personal computing and the incredible march of progress with performance. Such an exciting time. Every year saw an earth-shattering step up in capability and power, and the Amiga was absolutely the pinnacle of that. It was one of the top home computers in the UK at the time, and it is also at this time that Team17 is born. The company was founded in Wakefield, up in the north of England, I should say, and can trace its roots through publisher 17-Bit, a company that was part of Microbyte, built with the intention of drawing new, independent development houses to be published under the 17-Bit banner. 17-Bit were led by Michael Robinson with Martyn Brown, Debbie Bestwick, and through Brown they ended up having a hand in the creation of Swedish software house Team7, which was led by Andreas Tadic, Rico Holmes and Peter Toolby. The natural outcome in December 1990 was then the merging of those two teams into the publishing and development house we now know as Team17. This all happened at a time when the gaming landscape was all still relatively young, having really only started to build up a head of steam through the 1980s. Nevertheless, the timing of Team17's creation and the rise and seemingly unstoppable rise of the Amiga could not have been more perfect. In those early days, we saw the release of Alien Breed in 91, Project X 92, Super Frog 93, all of which were chart toppers. Not bad for a software house which was really just pretty new out of the gate. In 1993, Team17 along with EA won the Golden Joystick for Software House of the Year. Impressive stuff. So despite somewhat harsh reviews from Amiga Power through the mid-90s, Team17 were not deterred, and we saw Alien Breed 2 in 93 and Arcade Pool in 94. One of my absolute favourite, Super Stardust, published by Team17 for Bloodhouse, came out in 94, and also ATR All Team Crash Racing. This was created by Jamie Woodhouse, published by Team17 in 1995. And it was in 95, of course, that things really changed for forever for Team17. (1995) Enter Worms. I can already hear the familiar sound effects in my head, that whoop of bazooka, the boom of a grenade going off, and that oh no of a worm that has stepped on a landmine. Worms wasn't just a game, it was an absolute phenomenon, and for Team17 it was the big break that they had been waiting for. Team17, I think, felt that the writing was on the wall for the Amiga at that point. They weren't wrong. Of course, the Amiga's popularity really started to fall off as we got towards the end of the 90s and into the early 2000s. But that's another story for another day. Sadly, needless to say, Team 17 knew they needed to secure their business for the future, and Worms could well be the goose that was going to lay that all-important golden egg. So they picked a third-party publisher to help them make a name and establish the franchise. That publisher was none other than Ocean Software, another sadly absent name in the gaming world these days, and that of course is another story for another day also. But they went on to publish Worms for the SNES, the PC, the PlayStation, and of course the Sega Mega Drive. I'll be honest, I've probably spent more hours playing Worms than I care to admit. This game was huge back in the day. It was simple, strategic, and best of all, it was fun with friends. I mean, what's not to love about a bunch of worms blowing each other up with bazookas, dynamite, and the infamous holy hand grenades? So, yes, amazing times. Worms was a hit right from the start. It brought something fresh to the table. It was turn-based, it was a strategy game, and it wasn't bogged down by too much seriousness. In fact, it embraced humour, colourful graphics, and over-the-top weapons, making it an accessible game for both hardcore gamers and casual players alike. Worms was Team 17's first real major success, and it didn't take long for sequels to follow. So we had Worms Reinforcements, Worms Armageddon in '99, and they became staples of the franchise and soon became a multiplayer LAN party favourite. I mean, at my office, we'd spend entire lunch breaks, as I mentioned before, engaged in those epic Worms battles, and it was chaos in the best way possible. And honestly, it was those moments that really made Team 17's games stand out. Case in point, despite Ocean predicting that they'd shift 60,000 copies of the original game, they actually shifted more than 1 million in its first year. And whilst it was the goose that laid the golden egg, in fact it was the goose that laid many golden eggs. Team 17 developed a bit of a golden egg addiction, in fact, and went on to create 16 new Worms games. So what could possibly go wrong? But the success of Worms wasn't without its challenges, and by the early 2000s the gaming world was really moving towards 3D gaming, and Team 17 had a tough decision to make. How do you bring Worms into the third dimension? So, enter Worms 3D in 2003, and whilst the game was a bold step into 3D, the results were, how should we put it, mixed. Fans of the series love the idea of Worms in 3D, but the transition just didn't quite work. The controls felt a bit clunky, the game didn't quite capture the same magic that the 2D games had, and just the fun element seemed to have disappeared a little bit. I mean, sure, you could see the Worms from all the angles now, but somehow it just felt like there was something lost in the translation. But despite these hiccups, Team 17 didn't give up. They kept evolving Worms, and by the late 2000s they found their footing again with Worms Reloaded and Worms Revolution. These games brought the franchise back to the 2D roots with updated visuals, and the fans came back in their droves. And around that time we also saw the return of some of their other famous IP, specifically through Alien Breed. So we saw Alien Breed Evolution on the Xbox 360 in 2009, the first Alien Breed game since 1996. This was later rebadged as Alien Breed Impact for Steam and PSN, and it received pretty good reviews. This was quickly followed up with Alien Breed 2 Assault and Alien Breed 3 Descent in 2010. Both of these titles also receiving, average to good reviews. So into the 2000s now, this is where Team 17's story really starts to take a bit of a turn that not a lot of people talk about. In the late 2000s, the gaming world was going through a huge shift. The rise of indie games, digital distribution platforms like Steam and Xbox Live Arcade gave small developers that chance to get their games out to a global audience. And this really is where I think Team 17 showed that they weren't just about Worms, they were pioneers in the indie gaming scene. In 2014 they published The Escapists from Mouldy 2 Studios, a game about escaping from prison, and it was a huge success. It had that same quirky charm that Worms does, but with a completely new concept, and it was one example of how Team 17 was evolving into a major publisher for indie titles. The Escapist, for instance, sold over 1 million copies in its first year. They later then acquired Mouldy 2 Studios along with the Escapist franchise. Throughout that period, Team 17 underwent restructuring. They acquired Iguana Entertainment in 2011, and it was also the year that Martyn Brown left the company. This was following a management buyout from co-founder Debbie Bestwick, who remained with the company as CEO until January 2024, so just last year.
When we started Team17, full contract was already finished. It wasn't released, it was finished, and everybody was on with Alien Breed, really. So it was the first real Amiga game, and I think early on the decision was made to make it 1 meg only, and use half the memory for sound effects and speech, and that's something that really stuck, and it's because we could, and because the Amiga could do that, and because very few other games use the memory for speech and sound, that we could stand out.
Now, if we're going to talk about Team 17's legacy, we have to talk about Martyn Brown. Martyn was more than just a co-founder. He was the driving force behind much of Team 17's early success. He was the visionary who helped steer the company through those early years, keeping things fresh and innovative, helping to set up Team 7, and most importantly, he was the one who pushed Worms to greatness. Martyn's vision wasn't just about creating great games. He believed in the power of community, in making games that brought people together, and in supporting the people who made those games. So his commitment and innovation and passion for creativity made Team 17 a place where developers could truly thrive. Sadly, Martyn passed away last year in 2024, and it was a huge loss for the gaming world. His contributions to Team 17 and to the broader gaming community cannot be overstated. He was truly one of the good guys in the industry. His legacy will live on in every game that carries the Team 17 name. And you can see this from the interviews that people do with him, that everybody just says what a nice guy Martyn was. So, despite their ups and downs, Team 17 continues to thrive today. They're still one of the most respected publishers in the business, working on a variety of projects in recent years like Hell Let Loose, Moving Out 2, The Survivalists. The studio's commitment to creativity and innovation continues to define absolutely everything they do. It's really core to their whole business. In 2018, Team 17 went to IPO, which basically means it became a public listed company. This has been followed by a period of bumpiness for the company, but as this is meant as a positive tribute to Team 17, I will leave you to go and do your own research into this if you so wish. Needless to say, Team 17 are still here, and they've got plenty of stuff, good stuff, exciting stuff coming up. And it seems actually that Worms is perhaps not in that horizon right now, so with focus perhaps more pushing back towards the indie publishing scene. So Team 17 has come a long way since its early days, and their legacy, one of laughter, chaos and community, is stronger than ever. Their impact on the gaming industry, especially in the UK, absolutely cannot be understated, and their dogged support for indie houses has treated us to some of the most amazing titles over the years that we just may not have otherwise seen. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the history of Team 17. From the chaos of Worms to their modern day success, this company has left a lasting mark on the gaming industry, and they will continue to do so for years to come. At least I hope so. Just leaves me to say, really, if you've got any memories of Worms or any of those Team 17 games we've spoken about today that you want to share, please do drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I know I always say it, but I do really appreciate your support. Just leaves me to say, until the next time, please do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.